All right, welcome back to continuing the discussion, Genesis chapter 23. Genesis 23 is one of those chapters that's easy to read. It's easy to read quickly and maybe even skip over. There's no dramatic vision, no divine test, no miracles, no miraculous birth, just a man burying his wife. But I think that's exactly why this chapter matters so much. Because this is real life. This is what it looks like to be a person of faith, not just in the big mountaintop moments, but in the valley, in the quiet, heavy days of grief, in the hard conversations, in the slow negotiations, in the simple but holy act of honoring someone you love. So let's walk slowly through this moment with Abraham and talk about what it means for us. The chapter opens simply, quote, Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiriath Araba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Stop right there. This is the only time in Scripture where a woman's age at death is recorded. Sarah isn't just anyone. She is the mother of a promise. And this verse honors her life. Abraham doesn't just move on, he weeps, he mourns. The man of faith, the one who walked with God, who heard divine promises, who saw miracles, he grieves. And that tells us something important. Faith doesn't make us immune to pain. It gives us a way to move through it. Abraham's tears are not weakness, they're love. They're a part of what makes this story human and sacred. So the first thing this chapter invites us into is this. Are we willing to let grief be part of our faith story? Do we allow space for loss, sadness, and remembrance without rushing to make it all okay? Sometimes the most faithful thing we can do is to sit with our sorrow and honor what we've lost. But then comes something beautiful. Abraham rises from his mourning and says, I am a foreigner and a stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site here so I can bury my dead. Now this is more than a legal transaction. It's a theological moment. Remember, God has promised Abraham all this land. But at this point, Abraham owns none of it. He's been living in tents, moving from place to place. He has a promise, but no possession. So here, in the wake of loss, Abraham takes his first step towards holding part of that promise. He buys the cave of Machpelah, not as a favor, not as a loan, but as a permanent possession. It's the only piece of land he will ever own in his lifetime, and it's not for farming or building or conquering. It's a it's a grave. The first piece of the promised land is soaked in tears. And yet it's a beginning. There's a second thing here the chapter teaches us. Sometimes God's promises take root in our hardest seasons. We may be expecting God to move through victory or celebration, but often he moves through quiet obedience, through small, slow steps of faith, through a legal agreement in a dusty field. And maybe that's what faith really is. Trusting that even in grief, even in the everyday decisions, God is still building something bigger than we can see. Now let's talk about the negotiation itself. This interaction between Abraham and the Hittites is incredibly detailed. There's bowing, there's respectful language, there's a back and forth about who owns what and how much it costs. Why spend so many verses on this? Because this isn't just a real estate deal. It's about legacy and witness. Abraham is making it clear he's not cutting corners. He's not relying on temporary arrangements. He wants the land as a permanent, public, and legal part of his family's future. And that speaks to us too. Are we willing to take our faith seriously in the small things? Are we building lives that speak of trust, integrity, and long-term vision, even in the quiet chapters? Faith isn't just tested in fire. It's revealed in how we act when no one's watching. When we're tired, when we're grieving, when we're tempted to just do what's easy. And here's something else. That chapter doesn't end with God speaking from heaven. There's no angel, there's no voice, no divine interruption. Just a man buying his wife and just a man burying his wife in the first place of the land God promised. And yet, this is sacred ground. Sarah's burial site becomes the first of several. Later, Abraham will be buried there, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. This cave, this quiet purchase becomes the ancestral heart of Israel. From sorrow comes permanence. From loss comes legacy. And that leads us to the last reflection. How do we live in such a way that honors both what has passed and what God is still doing? Can we be people who grieve deeply and hope fully at the same time? Abraham shows us how. So today, Genesis 23 reminds us that grief is not weakness, it's holy ground. That God's promises often begin in small, slow ways. And that faith means planting roots, even when all you can see is a cave and a tomb, because God is still moving, still building, still faithful, even in the quiet chapters. Thank you for sitting with us on this one today. Let's keep walking forward one step of faith at a time. Stay tuned for tomorrow's deep reflections on the reflection questions tomorrow, with continuing the discussion in the next chapter.